opposite direction. The Irish people recognised the humanity of the unborn child and protected it in the Constitution. 2-1 a vote in 1983 in favour of the unborn child's rights. And then we find ourselves now, in this year, with precisely the reverse of that result. 2-1 in favour of taking those rights away. And the question we have to ask ourselves is, what has changed in those intervening years? Because we knew the type of country we had as a result of the 8th Amendment. A country that recognised the rights of the most vulnerable in society. A legacy that we could be proud of. Over 100,000 people alive in this country, directly thanks to the 8th Amendment. And we heard from one of those people earlier. But yet that same generation, my generation, who were born after 1983, rejected the amendment, rejected that generous recognition of rights. And I'm going to talk to you some reflections of why that might be and where we find ourselves now going forward. Because for the first time in this country, we have an Irish government and a parliament debating and putting into place a law that will involve the intentional destruction of innocent human life. Many of us recognise that that is a deep injustice, yet our fellow citizens did not. I don't think any of us will be ever able to walk past a hospital in this country again without asking the question, what's happening in there now? Because before this, we could be confident that the legal and medical institution, the frameworks around the practice in those hospitals, was one that preserved and protected life. And now the precise opposite is the case. Why? Well, one of the primary reasons was a deep failure by the political leadership of this country. We discovered during the course of the referendum, politician after politician come forward and tell the Irish people that they were on a journey. And this journey seemed to get more outrageous and ridiculous with each politician that would file before a camera and say, well, I've changed my mind. Politicians like Micheál Martin, the leader of Fianna Fáil, who was in favour of protecting the right to life, not less than 10 years ago, came on a journey to removing it completely from the Constitution. Politicians like Leo Varadkar and Simon Harris, who in 2011 sought the endorsement of this organisation as pro-life candidates when seeking the vote of the Irish. Their journey certainly moved them right where they thought the support from the media was going. And then we had Simon Coveney, a man whose journey was shorter but a lot more dramatic. A man who we could see publicly wrestling with what he was being asked to support. But unfortunately, in the wrestling match with his conscience, it was his conscience that lost, and Simon's desire, like all the other Simons, to remain in power that won out. Neighbours and our family and friends came to the conclusion that the 8th Amendment must be removed from the Irish Constitution. Well, the analysis conducted by the Behaviour and Attitudes Polling Company of the exit poll from the referendum revealed some interesting points. It revealed that 80% of the respondents, and over 3,000 people responded to that survey across the country, 80% of them trusted what they heard in the media. That was an extraordinary number. If you look across the pond to the United States, around 30% of people trust what they see in the media and hear in the media, meaning close to 70% do not. In this country, it's precisely more exaggeratedly the reverse. And what is it then that our neighbours, friends and family have been subjected to? 25 or more years of relentless propaganda against the 8th Amendment, against the pro-life movement, and against the rights of the most vulnerable in this society. I'll give you some numbers that we've managed to glean from our analysis. On a particular month, on RTE Radio 1, the same RTE Radio 1 that all of us taxpayers are paying for, there was 81 minutes of content in favour of abortion or the repeal of the Eighth Amendment, and 4 minutes on the opposite side. In a particular group of leading newspapers on a 1 month in the last year, 33 articles in favour of repealing the Eighth Amendment and only 1 supporting the Eighth Amendment. And then in 1 week this year, in the run-up to the referendum campaign, 18 articles in the main newspapers in this country in favour of repealing the Eighth Amendment and 0 articulating the opposite point of view. So 80% of people believe what they read in the media and trust them. And you have that level of media bias, with relentless propaganda over the decades. Is it any wonder we found ourselves in the position that we did, where something that we should be proud of was relegated into something that we should actively seek to remove from our Constitution? And that is a disgrace. And it's a disgrace in this country that we do not have a media that articulates even more. You might argue, well, those are private institutions and they're entitled to their point of view, irrespective of how grotesquely biased it is. But let's look at the actual institutions then that are designed to create balance and fairness in this country. Dáil Éireann, not a single political leader in the Dáil was in favour of the retention of the Eighth Amendment. Every single one of them filed out to oppose it. You had a spectacle then of some debates, such as one on TV3, where two-party leaders from Sinn Féin and Fianna Fáil were being opposed by Declan Gandhi and other private individuals because they could not find a single party leader in our Parliament that was willing to come out and articulate the defence of the Eighth Amendment. That had 33% of the population, nearly 750,000 voters, who do not have a single representative body in the Dáil supporting them. And that is an extraordinary failure of democracy. There are some politicians, though, that we can be very proud of, who have stood up to relentless abuse and vilification in the media, online, and even on the street. And those politicians, and I'm going to name one person in particular who has been a great supporter of this organisation over many years, Senator Ronan Mullen. Designed to do nothing other than to manipulate and interfere with the electoral process in this country. That is a disgrace.